Selamat datang di Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Trisakti. Izinkan kami menyampaikan safety briefing prosedur keselamatan. Potensi bahaya di dunia ini adalah kebakaran dan gempa. Saat ini kita berada di ruang auditorium lantai 2 FK dan FKG Universitas Trisakti. Ruangan ini memiliki tiga pintu keluar, satu di bagian depan sebelah barat dan dua di bagian belakang sebelah utara. Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Trisakti sudah dilengkapi dengan alat kebakaran, alat deteksi intensitas asap, hidran dan alat pemadam api ringan. Cara penggunaan APAR: tarik kunci pengaman atau segel, pegang bagian ujung selang dan arahkan ujung selang ke sumber api. Tekan tuas lalu kibaskan ujung selang pada sumber api secara perlahan sampai api padam. Jika melihat asap atau api yang mulai menyala, jangan panik, tetap tenang. Bagi wanita yang menggunakan sepatu tinggi, harap dilepas. Berjalan mundur bila ada asap karena udara di bawah ini bersih. Jika terjadi gempa, lindungi kepala dengan kedua tangan. Cari tempat berlindung yang aman di bawah meja atau berada pada posisi yang kokoh dan hindari bangunan yang berkaca. Jika gempa selesai dan keadaan aman, segera keluar pintu keluar. Ikuti arah jalur evakuasi menuju titik kumpul yang berada di bawah dekat security. Jangan berlari, berjalan cepat agar tidak terjatuh. Prioritaskan tangan dan orang yang memiliki kelemahan fisik. Demikian prosedur keselamatan yang dapat sampaikan. Atas perhatiannya kami ucapkan terima kasih. Salam keselamatan.
Selamat datang di Universitas Trisakti, di mana pendidikan kedokteran bukan sekadar sebuah ilmu, tapi sebuah panggilan untuk menginspirasi hidup. Ikuti kami dalam perjalanan di Fakultas Kedokteran, tempat di mana bakat ditempa, nilai dihargai, dan pelayanan masyarakat menjadi misi utama. Fakultas Kedokteran Universitas Trisakti didirikan dengan tekad untuk menciptakan para dokter yang bukan hanya berkompeten tetapi juga bermoral. Sejak awal, kami bertekad untuk menjadi fakultas kedokteran yang andal, berstandar internasional, berbasis teknologi informasi terbaik di Indonesia, dan menghasilkan lulusan yang profesional dan berkarakter Trikrama Trisakti. Membangun fondasi yang kokoh atas integritas, keunggulan, dan pelayanan masyarakat. Di sini, kami memiliki fasilitas terkini yang mendukung setiap langkah dalam perjalanan pendidikan kedokteran. Dari laboratorium hingga perpustakaan, semuanya dirancang untuk menciptakan lingkungan pembelajaran yang optimal. Program studi kami dirancang dengan cermat untuk memberikan landasan kuat dalam ilmu kedokteran. Kuliah praktik, penelitian, dan kegiatan mahasiswa menciptakan pengalaman belajar yang berharga. Mahasiswa kami tidak hanya belajar di ruang kelas, tapi juga terlibat dalam berbagai kegiatan ekstrakurikuler. Ini bukan sekadar pendidikan, tetapi juga perjalanan pengembangan diri yang luar biasa. Prestasi akademis dan kebahagiaan mahasiswa adalah cerminan dari komitmen kami terhadap kualitas pendidikan. Kemitraan dengan rumah sakit
tamu undangan itu disebutkan nggak sih?
Di tempat aku sih enggak sih.
Oh ya udah nggak usah. Dan gitu aja kalau nggak ditambahin tamu undangan yang tidak bisa kita sebutkan.
Cek tes 1. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning and warm welcome to the Universitas Trisakti 2025 Annual Medical Practitioner Meeting AM/PM Guest Lecture. My name is Tubagus Fauzan Wahyu Fadilah, and it is my honor to serve as your Master of Ceremony for today's session. The Honorable Dr. Dona Adriani Kusuma Dewi, Master of Biomedics, expert in sports physiology. The Honorable Dr. Jihan Samira, Master of Medical Education and Clinical Microbiology Specialist. The Honorable Dr. Nani Khairunisa, Master of Community Health Science, as the Chairperson of the 2025 Annual Medical Practitioner Meeting. The Honorable Dr. Kenji Saito, Doctor of Medicine, Juris Doctor, and Fellow of the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, and the Honorable Dr. Ahmad Al-Tayr, and the Honorable all the other guests that has attended today. Before we begin, let us take a brief moment to bow our heads in prayer to God Almighty. May today's event run smoothly and bring insight, wisdom, and inspiration to us all. Pray begin. Prayer is now concluded. Dear guests, before we proceed today's event, please rise for the national anthem of the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. I kindly ask all attendees to stand. Thank you. Please be seated. Dear guests, allow me to briefly present the rundown of today's program. First, opening speech by Vice Dean for Dr. Jihan Samira. The second, lecture session 1 by Dr. Kenji Saito. The third, lecture second session by Dr. Ahmad Altair. The fourth, the discussion session. And the fifth, closing ceremony. To begin, we will have the opening speech, which will be delivered by Vice Dean 4 of the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Trisakti, Dr. Jihan Samira, Master of Medical Education and Clinical Microbiology Specialist.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speaker, and also guests, respected faculty members, and our dear student. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is truly a great honor and pleasure for me to deliver this opening speech on behalf of the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Trisakti, at today's guest lecture. First and foremost, let us give thanks to Almighty God for His blessing and grace, which allow us to gather here today in good health to share knowledge and insight in the academic forum. On behalf of the Faculty of Medicine, I would like to extend our warm welcome to Dr. Kenji Saito, Dr. Ahmad Altair, and express our sincere gratitude for accepting our invitation to be part of today's session. Your presence and contribution are truly valuable for our faculty and students. This guest lecture is part of our continuous effort and enhance the academic experience for our students and to strengthen international collaboration and exposure. We believe that through sessions like this, our students will gain broader perspective, deeper understanding, and greater motivation to pursue excellence in the medical field. We hope that today's lecture will not only enrich our knowledge, but also inspire all of us to continue learning, innovating, and contribution to the advancement of medical science and healthcare services in the future. Finally, I would like to express my appreciation to organizing committee for their dedication and hard work in preparing this event. May today's guest lecture run smoothly and bring meaningful benefit to all participants. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Jihan, for the opening speech. Next, we will move on to our main session, the guest lecture. But before that, it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's session, Dr. Hindiati Nuriyah Latif, Occupational Medicine Specialist. Dr. Hindiati, the stage is yours.
Selamat pagi semuanya. Good morning to all speakers, Dr. Donna, Dr. Jihan, perwakilan dari Budiasi dan Sudin Jakarta Barat. Selamat pagi adik-adik. Gimana hari ini, happy? Ada yang lagi stres nggak? Enggak? No stress? Oke. Oke, baik. Jadi hari ini kita akan ada 2 speaker ya. Kita akan bahas tentang mental health. Jadi nanti adik-adik bisa diskusi, tanya jawab gitu ya terkait dengan apa sih yang biasanya kalian hadapi, kalian sebagai student gitu ya, med students. Kemudian itu koas IKKER kah yang di belakang? Oh, IKM. Oke, udah stres belum? Udah stres ya? Oke, baik kalau gitu kita langsung aja ya. Oke. Give a big applause to our first speaker, Dr. Kenji Saito, with the title. There are many fans of you, Kenji. Okay, the title is Beyond Burnout: Building Mental Wellness in Healthcare and Student. Okay, Kenji, your time is 40 minutes. Please rock the stage.
Wonderful, thank you. Selamat pagi. Trisakti, right? Good morning. Let's see. Assalamualaikum. Thank you. That's all I know. I'm sorry. I wish I knew. Next time I'll come back. I'll learn a little bit more. So today I'm going to teach you sort of what we do in terms of Socratic teaching. I'm going to ask you to take your phones out and use this QR code and log on to our live polling system. We're going to teach you in a way of asking questions, make you think, and really understand, what does burnout mean? What is mental wellness, mental health, mental well-being, behavioral health, all these terminology we're using right now, especially in a room full like this. I think it's really important that we think about it. And I'm glad that we're not stressed yet, because you will be a little bit when I show you some of the data around that. But before you get stressed, what I'd like to do is take a picture and do a selfie, because we live in a world of social media. So I know all the Gen Zs in here. So if you don't mind, give me a nice hello from Jakarta. Wonderful, thank you. And I'll put this on LinkedIn later today. So I'll be happy to share. So hopefully everybody was able to log in. Wonderful, you were. So most of you were at my lecture, great, because this is a continuation of that. For those who weren't, it was recorded, so you should be able to watch it later. I'll provide some of the survey results. But I'll go back and review a little bit too about what I think is important for medical students, our residents or interns, and the future profession, right? We as doctors need to take care of our patients, but who's going to take care of us as doctors? So in occupational medicine, we're the doctor's doctor, right? This is our job, is to make sure that we can self-care and also provide care for others. So this is interesting, right? I came, when I was invited to give this lecture to medical students, I was really excited because I wanted to understand what the structure looks like, not only here in Indonesia, but what the US, Europe, and other folks have training is very unique and very different. So we develop a sense of behaviors, attitudes, and habits that are really ingrained in what we do as students, and how do we change that thought process can be very hard. No matter what we do, though, worldwide, I've had the luxury and privilege of traveling all over the world to give this lecture on all the continents except for Antarctica. Soon I'll be there, hopefully by next year, the next couple years. But I've talked about occupational health, and it's very unique in every country in terms of regulations. But the one thing that's always the same is that we care for others, and sometimes we forget to care for ourselves. And this is why it's important that we talk about this and talk about the structure of our training and what do we need to do to bring that training to life. So to do that, I need to understand the audience, right? I'm talking to about 200 of you in here in the room right now, and I'm wondering, where are you in your training right now? Is your preclinical phase? Are you in years 1, 2, 3? Well, let's see if it's working. Let's see. Is it popping up on your phone? So technology is great only if it works, right? So the question is, how many people were in the first year of training, your first couple years, preclinical years? You can raise your hands. Okay, so maybe about half of you. Maybe the second half, after your intern year? Maybe years 3, 4, 5? Okay, so a little bit more. Any interns in the room? Residents? Okay, attendings? Great, so we have a couple. Okay, so we'll go back and talk a little bit more about sort of the idea of how to manage well-being from different parts of the training. So unfortunately, this is not working. So I'm gonna go ahead and go and be professional about this. It was great when it was working, but let's see if we can go ahead and move forward and the other ones will work. Let's talk about well-being and burnout, because I think it's gonna be important that we're able to manage this. Actually, I do have some slides later that I want to make sure it works. If you don't mind, I am going to try something different. Okay, it's not changing, right? Okay. That's really strange, because I have some interesting challenges. That's okay, I think we can make it work. Let's try. So let's talk about hormones. Hormones are the ones that really regulate our system, right? It regulates how we behave, what we think, how do we modulate from a physiological perspective, a biological perspective, but also a psychological perspective, right? It's really important to see that influence that hormones has on the body. How do we advance our treatments? Pharmacologically, but also psychologically, right? It's gonna be really important to think about that. So to be able to introduce that, we need to talk about what burnout means. What are some of the characteristics, the signs and symptoms that we see? How does it involve your sort of emotional behavior, your thoughts about health, and how do you pursue your daily activities? So it's really important to think about mental wellness and importance in a way that's unique to how do we present our goals, and how do you really look at the future leaders and understand it's a structure that we can offer as a school, as a hospital, we have a good infrastructure for the environment to support that. You can allow. Yeah. Yes. If you can click allow, yes, that'll be great. So let's understand the physiology of burnout as well, right? There's a lot of stress hormones. There's a lot of different impacts that we can have. There's good stress. There's bad stress. The question is, how do you balance that out? So for the students in the preclinical years, I think it's really important to understand the physiology. What's the biology of stresses, right? What are the hormones you have, and what are the symptoms you have from that? And how do you intervene early, right? Just like any kind of pharmacology class when you take, medications exist, but there's other opportunities for education around interventions, right? We need to understand what is the neurobalance behind that. What's the structure we need to have our balance between the hormones, the neurons that are really released in the brain, and how it really interacts with the whole body overall. So to be able to balance that out, we need to make sure we have good regulation of the cortisol, right? The different hormones, I'll go through that and talk about the different parts of it, and how do you develop resiliency overall. The challenge right now is, when you talk about wellness, there's no structure, right? There's no textbook that you can learn well-being in every country. Every country does it very differently, and since I'm coming from the US, I'm gonna use an example of the Wild Wild West. Anybody like Clint Eastwood in the old Western movies, right? He's riding on a horse, coming as cowboys, and we don't know what that looks like, right? The cowboy age of well-being is still here. We don't have good data to say this is the evidence-based gold standard to treat burnout, to treat mental health, right? We're using a lot of different batteries of tests that we're starting to validate and test in different countries. Actually, we just talked about NIOSH developing a well-being survey called the Well-Being BQ. I encourage you all to look at that. There was a great article that just came out a couple months ago out of Malaysia, NIOSH, that talked about well-being BQ survey that was validated specifically for Malaysia. So I would encourage Indonesia to take that survey and validate it for Indonesia, because now you can start having a survey tool that would be helpful. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So let's talk about the biology, right? Since I'm lecturing to a lot of medical students, I want to make sure we understand there is a hormone sort of structure between the hypothalamus and the adrenal glands, right? Because cortisol is what releases some of the bad stresses, but it could also be the good stress as well. And the norepinephrine, right? The whole sort of idea of the endocrine system. The genetic factors, the non-genetic factors, right? There's a biology to stress. There's a biology to mental health, right? I want to make sure people understand it's not just talk therapy. This is truly a disease that can happen in your brain and your body. So when we talk about mental health, we need to destigmatize that, right? When we talk about mental and behavioral health, we need to destigmatize that. Substance abuse, all that has a sort of a interaction between the different stresses and the different relating organs in the system as well. So we know it's not just the brain and the adrenal glands, right? It affects the whole entire body, right? Does your glucose go up when you have stress? Absolutely, because it's a response, right? How does that regulate in the blood? Regulates in your heart, your liver, your lungs, your immune system. All that is regulating itself, right? So it's important to remember there is a biology to stress overall, and there's different signals, whether it's the afferent or the efferent signals, and the interaction with the immune systems. This is why I want to make sure we take diseases like mental health very seriously, because there is an impact on the body, and there's an impact on how we relate to that. And there's different parts of the brain we're starting to understand, right? MRI studies are starting to show different prefrontal cortexes that have interaction between our behaviors, our personalities. It's really important to understand that these brains have interaction with the whole body overall. Why is it that in meditation, whether you're doing a Tibetan meditation, breathing exercise, or doing a Japanese sort of Shinto relaxation and tree bathing, it all relates to something. When I ask everybody to stop, take a deep breath in, what are you doing when you take a deep breath in to meditate? You're stretching that vagus nerve. Remember that in anatomy? The vagus nerve releases parasympathetics, acetylcholine, and now you're starting to relax. Right? So when people meditate, you're like, that's not true. It doesn't work. There's actually good clinical studies now to show taking a deep breath in, box breathing is what we call it. 8 seconds in, you stretch the nerve, you release the acetylcholine, and now you're in a parasympathetic state. That means you're relaxing, right? So good stress can become bad stresses can become good stress. So it's all about the harmonization between the two. So the biology is good, right? So let's see if this is working now. So we understand now that there's a biology between what we need to do and how to respond to that. So let's see if this is working now. I don't know if anybody has their phone out, but if not, that's okay. Because I'm curious now to see what things you might be able to do to enable your personal life, what you're able to do in your private life as well, that brings that wellness and well-being. It's working? No? Okay. So maybe we're a small enough room. Do I have any brave volunteers that want to talk about what do you normally do for well-being? What do you need to do to be able to wake up in the morning and do something healthy for yourself? What do you like to do here in Indonesia? Any volunteers before I have to pick on people? Maybe you can help me translate.
Ya.
Interpret.
Ada yang mau cerita nggak kira-kira? Ada yang mau volunteer ke depan? They are too shy.
They're too shy.
Yeah.
How many people like to exercise? Running,
Ada
lifting
yang
weights?
exercise, ada yang suka
You can raise
lari.
your hand.
Raise your hand.
Good. Anybody like to sleep? Sleep is more important, okay. How about eating healthy foods? Okay. So everybody likes to eat, right? I like to eat. I wish I had more time to show you my pictures of having great food in Jakarta. I mean, I've been out all over the world, right? New York City, Paris, London, Lima, Peru, Johannesburg. I would say Jakarta has really good food in the top 5 in the world. Yeah. So nutrition is important, right? So these are all risk factors for diseases, right? If you don't eat well, if you don't sleep well, you don't exercise well, you need to be able to make sure we balance it all out. So it's really important that we have that opportunity to do that. So I'm going to try and see if this will work here, because I do have a little challenge for you. Are we competitive here in Indonesia? What do you think? Not really? I think you are, though. So, okay, so how about school? What do you like to do when you're in school? Do you like to, because we have to study, right? There's a lot of testing in medical school. What do you do to relax? Sleep. I see sleeping is a big one. Anything else you need to do when you're in school studying for exam? How do you relax when you're in school? Right? Maybe everybody says sleep. Why is it different? Why aren't you going exercise? We have a bunch of people saying they want to exercise. A lot of people say they like to cook or to eat. But why is it when you come to school well-being, people just say sleep? That's the most common answer I always get all over the world. Because there's a stress, right? There's a stress to school. You have to read, you have a test, your professor's saying, tell me answers, right? Pointing at you, like I am right now on your stage. You weren't stressed before, but now you're stressed. When I'm like, you, tell me, stand up and respond, right? There's a stress to that. But the question is, why is it different when you say school stress is different from home stress? In occupational medicine, I see this at the workplace. CEO of company, they get so stressed at work, and they take that stress home. But they don't take the good behaviors of home. They're like, oh, I like to go on vacation with my family, spend time with my wife, spend time with my children. But when it comes to work stress, they're like, no, it's just sleep. I just need rest. I just need time off. That's not the answer, right? Same in healthcare. You have 20 patients to see today. You have 50 patients to see today. But it's always a challenge because you don't know what to do because your response to it is very different. You're like, just okay, I'm a doctor. I need to just do it. But that's how we lead to burnout. That's how you lead to stress. That's negative and impact your overall well-being, right? That's why I think it's important that we really kind of consider what we need to do. So you need to harmonize your stress, right? Because bad stress is what we're trying to avoid, but there's also good stress, right? Why do you wake up every morning and go to school? Why did I wake up this morning to come to the lecture today? Something drives me, right? I get a little stressed too. I might not see it on stage, but it's really stressful to look at 200 people, everybody staring at me and saying, what's next? Your slide's not working, and I'm a little stressed. But I don't show it, right? Why? It's this physiologic response. It's a balance, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't push myself to do more. And when I was in academia, why do I want to publish a paper every year? Or why would I want to publish in a very high impact journal? Right? There's something that drives us. There's a stress that's good because if no stress, we would not wake up in the morning. We would not get out of bed. We wouldn't go to work. We wouldn't come to school, right? Just remember, stress is not always bad. It's also good as well because it pushes you to do a little bit more. But the idea is very an Asian thought, right? It's harmony between the good stress and the bad stress. So anything else you forget today, just remember, everything is harmony, good and bad together. You can't just take one only and not the other. So I want to see if I can get this to work, because this is a little game I want to play with you. If you don't mind, I'm going to take maybe just 30 seconds and I'll talk you through this as well, because I think I want to make sure I can get this to work. It's going to really drive the idea of good stress and bad stresses with you. Okay, that's okay. Let's try this. Let's see. Okay. If it doesn't work, that's okay. All right, let's see if this will work. If it doesn't, that's okay. Well, we'll make it work. So I'm going to play a little game with you, because I find that when I ask questions, people don't answer right away. But if you're competition, who's the number one person in the class right now? Do you have ranking in your school? Who's number 1, 2, 3? Is the number one person in school here right now in the room? Who's number one? Can you raise your hand? No? I'm going to get someone in trouble today, aren't I? Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5? Anybody in the class? Nobody? Okay. That's okay. I know you're here and you're probably shy. I just created a lot of stress for you, didn't I? Cortisol just shot up, right? This is why it's important that we think about stress in a very unique way. My question here was, I was going to challenge you, right? Because there's always number 1, number 2, number 3. Right? I always thought I was the smartest person in the room. Not true. Everywhere I go, I always meet someone smarter than me. But intelligence is in a very different way, in different culture, right? Some people measure intelligence in the form of what you're able to do, perform. Look at companies. Is the CEO usually the smartest person in the whole company? Not necessarily, right? They could be the 10th smartest person, but what they do is they bring people together. Different skill set, right? Different ideas of how to manage their company, their people. So it's really important. So I think that it's always important to think about, why do we compete with each other? Why do we sit together in groups, right? In my lecture on Saturday, I show you pictures of the animals around the world, right? Safari starting in Africa and traveling to Australia and other countries, where they're always together in different groups of people. So I want to make sure that we challenge each other in a positive way, and this is why I kind of ask these questions. So it's okay, we'll do this as a raise a hand. So the next question here is, what kind of bodily fluid or sample you can correlate to happiness? Right, I talked about this briefly. So you have dopamine, you have serotonin, you have cortisol, norepinephrine, and oxytocin, right? Is it very familiar? Is that a different word in Indonesian, Hindi, or is it the same in here? Same words? Do you understand when I say oxytocin? Okay, great. So all these hormones, what do you think? Dopamine is the most important for happiness? What do you think? Okay. How about oxytocin? Nobody thinks oxytocin? Serotonin? You're not sure? Endorphins, like norepinephrine, epinephrine? Yes? How about all of the above? All of the above, right? So this is important to remember why we have these things. So this was supposed to be a competition, right? Usually the first person who wins, I was going to recognize you as you're the number 1 today, but unfortunately it's not working today, so we'll have to do raise a hand. So whoever raised a hand fastest, you're going to be the smartest for today. Right, so this is important. And Dr. Ahmed, of course, will be, because he's going to join us on stage in a little bit to introduce you a little more to the topic as well. So I just want to go skip here. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, right? Because this is important to remember why these hormones exist I just talked to you about. The biology of this is so important. Because the balance of these 4 hormones and others, right? We're starting to learn a lot of different GI, sort of neuroparasympathetics and neuroendocrine pathways that the GI system, all of us like to eat, right? There's a reason why we like to eat, because it releases happiness hormones. We know when we're full because of what we eat too. So there's a balance of all these hormones that we need to understand and remember that this is truly a medical condition that we can help as doctors. Because otherwise we always send it away, say, I don't know, because I can't, mental health is nothing I could put my stethoscope to. I can't see with an otoscope or ophthalmoscope, but you need to start seeing it in terms of validated surveys and tools. So I'll go ahead and skip this little fun test that we had. Next time I'll come back and make sure it works. But I think this is fun. So this way we can challenge each other. It's a little game. You can actually show what people remember, what they don't remember. And then it actually is really fun to be able to manage that as well. So let me see if I can go ahead and fast forward a little bit. Let's see. Okay. Serotonin. So we talked about all that. Okay. So after this fun test we just did, I want to talk about the connection between your mind and your body. Right? We talked about harmonization of stress between the different hormones, and the connection between the mind and body is what I need to do next. So people always ask, how do you introduce mental health in a corporate setting, in a hospital setting? So I take the biology and I translate it to policy, right? So the policy is going to be, how do you implement this at a university? How do you implement this at a hospital, corporate Fortune 500 company, a FTSE 1000 London-based company? It could be anything, right? The question is really, how do you make it simple and elegant so that people understand? And you'll see the formula for happiness. I'll share that for our next speaker, because he has a good formula for you to understand that. But evidence do show that people are happier, right? Or when you have a sense of ownership, participate and engage in something, you feel supported, or you're connected to your community. So how many people think you're happier when you have a sense you own something, you control it? What do you think? Okay, raise your hands. How about when you can participate and engage in something, you get to join something and do something? Okay, some more people there. How about if you feel supported? Okay, that's even more, right? This is almost 20-30% of the group here. How about connecting to your community? Okay, that's the most, right? So actually there's a lot of evidence to show this. In countries like Asia or Europe, I see that a lot. And you would think if I go to Africa, they would say something else. And that's not true, right? Even in Australia and other countries, it's the sense of unity that brings the community together, right? There's a lot of sense of relationship and connections we have with each other that's really important, that shows that people really do care for each other. And our hormones, our pheromones, right? We're starting to understand now more around what pheromones interactions do when your human interface is in person versus when it's virtual through Team or Zoom, right? The connection with people is very different. The science now is actually showing that, and it actually shows the importance why the connection back to the community really impacts the way we think and the way our hormones releases the cortisols and the endorphins, the serotonins, the oxytocin, when you see each other, touch each other, and smell each other, right? All the senses need to come together. So I think it's really important we think about that as well. And this one is blank for some reason, so let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So does everybody know Albert Einstein? I hope so, right? One of the smartest people that have been attributed to physics and the understanding of that. And he was able to describe happiness in 17 words, right? A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness. I won't steal Dr. Ahmed's talk because he has a good formula that really ties to this as well. So I think it's important that we kind of think about how do we bring that sense of balance? How do we bring that sense of connection to others as well? So on this next slide, I'm going to talk to you about the study that we did back at Harvard. So 83 years, we follow someone, right? We want to follow this group of people and say, what kind of work do you do? This is outside of Boston, and people go to work every day, and they're like, what makes you happy? Why do you live to your 83 when the average age in the US back then was closer to 77? People are happy, tend to live longer, right? They know that there's decades of studying here that shows that good relationships keep you happier and healthier. And it's really important that we keep that relationship no matter where we are in our career and where we are in our life in terms of studying. So when I asked you that question earlier, right, what do you do for wellness, for happiness, for your workout? People say work out, they eat, they do different kind of training exercises. But when I asked you about school, all you did was sleep. So you got to remember, connecting back to your family, your friends, that's your support. That's your network to develop beyond burnout. How do you manage that? And share with them the story that you need to have. But you have a cohort of people, right? You have your professors, you have your advisors, you have your colleagues. Now you have us as faculty and experts around the world that talk about happiness, talk about relationships. So how do you share that emotion and the sharing of connection with each other is going to be really important as we think about how do we manage stress and burnout beyond what you know now and beyond just sleeping. How do you connect with others? Sharing is the most important thing that you can do. Psychological resilience is another topic that comes up in the literature a lot, right? It talks about how do you link your stresses with your body response. So there's a reason why you get sleepy when you're stressed out. Some people get very hyped up, they perform, and then they crash, right? Just like for those who have kids, when you have sugar, they get really fast, and all of a sudden just crash. right? Our body is built the same way, right? We know that the stresses and the cortisols and the different hormones impact the body in a very unique way that all of a sudden, if you don't relax, you'll sleep. And that's when the lack of sleep becomes an important physiological factor to it, right? It really changes the way your body works and how you do that. So this question is more geared towards our personality and how do we manage sort of stress and respond to it. So does anybody understand what is type A personality versus type B? Type A personality, can you raise your hand? Okay, I see a couple. Type B, interesting, not as much, but how about you don't know what it is? Okay, so most people don't know what type A and type B is. So in psychology, if you look at some of the history out of Germany and other countries, and they validated this in Asia too, and that's why I was kind of curious, but we can talk about this a little bit more. So type A is usually the typical student that's very organized. They come in day one, everything is highlighted, everything tabulated, and it's all organized. You're ready to go. Your life is organized, your clothing, everything's ironed, ready to go, everything's medi. Type B is more like, I'm okay, I can walk in this morning, anything happen, I'll be okay, I'll just roll with it. Right? Usually in medicine, we're mostly type A, right? Most of us can say we're very organized, we know what we need to do, we're prepared for our exam, you're coming to class on time, listening to your professor, taking your tests and getting A's, right? And it's challenged because everybody in type A in healthcare always want to be the best. That's why I asked, who's number 1, 2, 3? In the US, people stand up right and say, I'm number 1. Here, you're sitting down, right? You're a little bit modest, which is good, right? But if you go to different countries, it's very different. Two people might stand up. You go to Germany, you have 2, 3 people saying, I'm number 1, right? Because they all think they're number 1. But it's very unique and different, right? When you go to different countries, respect, understanding, but their stresses, the way they respond to it is very different if you're a type A personality. And the reason why I asked this is that you can see some of the studies are starting to show that we have a mental consciousness that is trapped because type A personality usually think about, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? What if I go on stage and my clicker's not working? How do I respond? The thought is cyclic, right? It becomes a circle. That harmony that we had before between good stress, bad stress is now broken. That pathway is gone. That feedback system, the loop that we learned in physiology is all gone because now you're stuck in this thought of just negativity about, oh my goodness, I'm going to fail. I'm not going to be number 1 anymore. I didn't get 100%. Maybe I got 90%, 80%. You know, in the US, we kind of joke, if you pass, you still become a medical student, a doctor, right? P equals MD. The joke's true because we're so stressed to be perfect all the time in medical school, in residency, in training. We feel like we always have to publish more papers to be able to progress as become professors. In life, you want to get paid more. You want to make more money. You want to get more better office space if you're working in there. You want to become the CEO of a company or a director or president. But that thought can put a lot of stress on you. And it's important to remember that it's not just psychological, it's also biological, right? There's a way to be able to think it so we can help people. This is a really good book that my friend Cal Newport wrote. It talks about deep work, right? Because the stress we have now for medical students versus when I was a medical student, I'm not gonna tell you when, a long time ago, is very different, right? We had to memorize everything before. But today, do I have to memorize everything in medicine anymore? I can just pull my phone out, ask ChatGPT, Copilot, Perplexity, Grok, whatever you might use, and ask a question, and the answer is almost immediate. I don't have to memorize, oh yeah, it was page 100 in pharmacology textbook, this is the medication we need to use for this, right? All the PK studies, all the half-lives, all this is all in the palm of your hands already. Your brain needs to be wired very differently now to think. To be able to compete, like in Asia overall, as we're a growing country, you need to think differently. You need to start thinking how to look at deep work, meaning this is the work I need to sit down and concentrate, I need to turn off everything and just focus, versus more some of the shallow work that you can do with others, connecting with others, right? Some people are very introverted, say, I'm actually happier when I'm by myself. And that's okay, but you need to know where you are. Are you type A, type B? Are you introverted, are you extroverted? That's how you start to respond to resiliency and developing skills to be able to manage the stress and go beyond just burning out, because everybody's gonna burn out eventually if you don't learn to regulate and balance and learn your feedback system, because it's very unique, right? I showed you there's a genetic component. We're all unique in genetics, but the community is there to support you in one way. So it's really good to understand the deep and shallow work that you have as well. Maybe I'll skip this one a little bit and talk about some of the routines you have. So in the morning, when you first wake up, these are just some tips you can take home now in my last 5 minutes or so, is what can you do when you do wake up in the morning, the connection between the mind and the body. I like to do stretches usually, right? Some people like to do yoga, Pilates, calisthenics, so I can balance out the body and mind. right? You got to keep it simple, right? How do you wake up in the morning? You go take a shower, you might do your morning prayer, and I think it's really important to have that vibration, that sound, right? Sound therapy is another interesting piece. We just recently learned that if you have a certain gong, like we had the opening ceremony yesterday, or the morning prayer, just listening to the hymns, it's really interesting how it really regulates the frequency in your brain, and your temporal lobe actually activates, and your hormones are being released early in the morning. Or when you're praying 5 times a day, it's your time for meditation, right? It's part of mind and body component to what you do. You need to be able to connect that to what you eat, or when you talk to your friends. But what I find is a really interesting study that came out last year too. Just smiling, waking up and laughing is enough to really trigger a lot of emotional responses. And these are all evidence-based. You can go online and go PubMed and look these articles up. You know, we don't have any good sort of randomized controlled trial studies to show it, but we have enough to say it makes a difference. It makes an impact. So continue to smile. Any dentists in the room, dental students? I know there were some that were invited. Flossing has been shown to be helpful as well, especially at night before you go to bed. It actually adds 2 years to your life expectancy because you floss your teeth at night. Besides good dental hygiene, you know, with cardiovascular impact, it's actually that moment of just focusing nothing else but just flossing and brushing your teeth. That moment of thought and just clarity is almost like meditation to others as well. So there's a lot of tips and trips here that you can see to do. And as I remind you earlier, you know, how do you balance the endorphins versus the oxytocins, the serotonins, and the dopamine is truly what we need to do. And I think the last thing I'll start out with is how many people look at your phone before you go to sleep at night? I know, right? Honestly, we all do. Unfortunately, right? You're checking your social media, you're looking at your apps. How many minutes does it take you to sleep after you look at your phone? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? 15? 1 hour? 2 hours? It takes about 1 hour for every 10 minutes of social media reading at night. That dopamine release you get when you swipe right, left, up and down, depending on what you use, adds another hour of lack of sleep you have at night. So remember that, right? When you told me earlier in school, the way to release stress is sleep, yet you're looking at your phone before you go to bed, it adds another hour of restlessness and not sleeping at night. So try to avoid technology when you can, disconnect to recharge, and that's how you sort of bring your mental health and your well-being and some practical tips you have to build what you can do to manage that as well. And I can share this with you too. So to develop resiliency, you need to be able to balance the risk factors for it, right? What are some of the risks you have, like cultural, social, societal, biological, physiological that we talked about, to those that are protective, right? This is just like any other physiology class you have. What's pro-inflammatory versus anti-inflammatory? How do you balance, harmonize those two? Same here, how do you harmonize good stress and bad stress? And these are protective and risk factors that you have. So the idea is about balancing it, right? So that's why I wanted to leave with you with how do you recover in terms of purpose, in terms of connections to others. I think it's really important that we have what you need to do from home perspective, work perspective, what your school can offer to you as resources, but they can't tell you to be well. Right? If I was a professor and say, you will be wellness, you will be practicing well-being, it's not going to work, right? Because you're not going to be able to manage that. You don't know what that means. And if you wanted to, you might not have the tools. But as a school, as a university, as a hospital, we can provide those tools, the resources, that environment for you to be successful, the resources. But it's up to you to be able to use those resources yourself. Just remember here, it's mind and body, connection between the two. And really, ultimately, it's about self-care. And part of the self-care, and I'm not sure if this is working or not now, but if it's not, we can ask some questions, because I think I have 5 minutes. So I want to use that for my questions and answers. But I want to take this time to thank my liaisons this morning for my car ride over. We connected. And of course, to my tour guide to Indonesia. It's been wonderful to be able to connect with friends, family, and to be able to understand more. So maybe I'll pause there. I want to take a couple questions, because I know I have a couple minutes left, and I think it's important that we kind of make this personal to you. And Dr. Ahmed will tell you more about happiness and whatnot. But any questions in the room right now? Yes, Professor. Do we have a microphone? Yes.
Sorry, Kenji. I am the personality A type. So very difficult to make my aim to reducing because I'm a lecturer, so I am a teacher, so that's why. Okay, my question is, I do the research among my students in public health about resilience.
Yes.
So it's very interesting because all of the answer mostly direct to critical thinking. I would like to explore why, how about their resilience and their critical thinking. So the critical thinking based on their knowledge. So if you say that now we don't need to reading a book like that because all in ChatGPT we can answer. But based my opinions, not like that.
Yes.
If you are doing as a student, so you should reading a book.
Yes.
If you doing the AI to get the answer is very easy, I'm not agree. But
Yes.
sometimes of the student do that, even for their task. So I think using the AI should be wise.
Yes.
If you quick answer, okay. But for the process, you cannot do that.
No.
Because related with the resilience. Okay, thank you.
I agree. Thank you. So on Saturday, I had a lecture. I talked about the integration of technology to healthcare. It's like, I agree with you. If I give you a stethoscope and ask you to go listen to heart, tell me if you hear a murmur, or if you go listen to the lungs and we hear wheezing, rails, would you be able to do it right away if you're not a doctor? You don't, right? You can go to ChatGPT, look it up, go on YouTube and look at it. But the training, the critical thinking is something we need to teach to future generations. Just like well-being too. If you don't teach how do you train yourself to have the balance between good and bad stress, ChatGPT or AI can't help you with that. If it did, we won't have doctors anymore, right? I showed a little slide on Saturday that showed that 5% of the work right now is going to be remaining in human work, but 95% of it can be automated through AI. By 2030, that's the recommendation already, the projection. It might be faster, actually. So I think it's critical that we teach thinking. And this is why when I teach students in the US and Europe and Australia and others now, hopefully now in Indonesia moving forward, I'll come back and teach this, is how do you use Socratic thinking? The Greeks got it right? Socratic thinking is asking questions, not telling you to memorize, but to think through the answer. By thinking, you release not only the hormones I talked about, but you create a neural pathway, because do you understand the concept of neuroplasticity? Do you remember? So good, most people understand. Neuroplasticity, dictates that the more you practice, the more you think, the higher the neural pathways become more robust and actually becomes more sort of welded into place so that you have that connection to thinking. So when I ask you questions like this about hormones, making it challenging, gamification, right, is truly using technology to teach you in a way that helps you remember to ask the right question. Because if you ask ChatGPT the wrong prompt, you get the wrong answer, right? And ChatGPT is not 100%, it hallucinates, right? AI can make up answers if they don't know. A good example I can show with you is I do a lot of independent medical evaluations, and I get records of like 2,000 pages in the US. I'm like, wow, this takes a long time. Usually I have a nurse help me read it, summarize it. So I put it to AI. Nurse usually take about 2 weeks. AI did it in maybe 20 minutes. And to summarize it, give me all the report, and I read the 2 report. And the report from the nurse write out, this is patient, 80 years old, here with a condition of XYZ, past medical history, social history, and then a summary. AI wrote the same thing, but then said, oh, by the way, this person also has lymphoma, cancer of the blood. I was like, wait, this is 2 different reports. Why does one say they have cancer, the other one didn't? Because AI didn't know, and I asked AI, cite for me where you found that. And the answer was, oh, well, it wasn't. It's based on family history. Because the family had this, the family has the risk of them having this cancer greater than 51%, and that's why it's in the report. But that's not accurate, right? That's what happened when you use technology without a balance between why you need to use your brain to critically think versus just using AI as the answer for everything. So using AI only, that means your job won't be here, right? There's a reason why we need doctors. Doctors need to touch people, both physically with their stethoscope, using AI as a tool to find answers quickly, but you need to use your brain and your heart to treat people. When I teach my medical students and residents, usually and fellows, is what happened when you talk to a patient? Do you think they'll remember everything you tell them? You're like, okay, I need you to get 8 hours of sleep, eat this food, avoid high glycemic index, diabetes, Will they remember everything you tell them? Usually not. what they usually remember is how you made them feel when they left the room. Usually they remember, oh, I like that doctor. Why? When you do survey, the answer is because that was a nice doctor. He listened to me, or she cared about me. She held my hand. When I listen to the heart, I touch the patient. That touch releases pheromones that has a connection to patients. Connection with others when you talk to people in a room. Right? That connection you have, whether it's psychological, whether it's physical, is the critical thinking that you're saying that we need to teach the future generations. And I implore you, because you can teach well-being in the same way. How do we care for each other? When you see your colleague, you'll make good friends when you progress through your career. And I've been very lucky to have friends from all over the world. We always call each other and say, how are you doing? No, really. Tell me about the last time you smiled. One of the questions I always like to ask strangers too is, when was the last time you cried? That's a strange question to ask a friend, right? But truly, if you really know someone, that connection will mean a lot to them, because now you can open up and talk more and develop the critical thinking that you need to make that true connection be real and authentic. All right, my time is up. I'll be around a little bit longer, so if you have any questions. Now let's be more optimistic as I introduce our next speaker, Dr. Ahmed, and I'll let Hindi do that.
Ya, thank you Dr. Kenji. Gimana adik-adik, udah stres? Okay, thank you Dr. Kenji. You make me us more stress, I think. Okay, now we need a little happiness. Ada yang butuh happiness nggak di sini? Nggak? Ada yang ngantuk ya? Ngantuk? Ngantuk nggak? Nggak. Kok lemes? Kuenya dimakan ya, biar semangat. Okay, next we move to our second speaker, Dr. Ahmad Altayer. He will present it about unlocking happiness. Please, Doc, dance the stage.
It's not working. Well, until it works. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Sabah al-khair. My name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Tayyar. Flew in all the way from Saudi Arabia to be here amongst you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the opportunity. Oh yes, we have a video. They just make it harder for me. They know I can do this. So first of all, I'd like to thank also Dr. Kenji, my dear friend. He always manages to make it more difficult for me. He raises the bar so high. I'm like, please don't. We had a conversation. Please don't be as good as you are. He ignores me. Okay. So before I cue that video, just give me a few more seconds. So thank you, Dr. Kenji. We did not plan to have this talk together. But great minds think alike. I'd like to think he has a great mind. Therefore, because I have some similar thoughts, hopefully I'll share something of similar value. I will repeat some of the things he said, but in a different way. Anyway, that's a long introduction. Now we're ready, hopefully technically. Reintroduce myself. My name is Ahmed Al-Tayyar. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I was initially thinking of giving this presentation in Arabic, but I decided not to. I'm just trying really hard to keep you awake. طيب. Brief introduction about myself. I'm a Saudi doctor. I grew up in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, Eastern Province. I was born in the hospital I work in. My father works for the company that actually employed me. I was treated there, volunteered there. I jokingly say I work there. I've transitioned with that company. I jokingly say that if I get cut, I bleed green and white, the Saudi flag, then blue, the logo of Saudi Aramco, my employer, and then blood. So I have a lot of connection to Saudi and to my company, so I wanted to mention that up front. That's my only disclosure, no financial gains, and this final disclaimer, everything I say today, I'm responsible for. So it's not my employer, I want to keep my job. Next, can we go back to the slides? All right, who has planned this? Okay, can we start? Yes, a little bit about myself. Again, internal medicine background, occupational medicine background. I have a Master's of Science in both engineering and management from MIT. Why do I say this? Trust me. That's all I want, okay? Just for you to trust me and that I'm a credible speaker. Next. This is my father. He's a geologist. He allowed me to use his picture. I asked my mother if I could use her picture. She said no. This is my disclaimer to keep my job. Now, why are we here all together? We're talking about a very important topic for every single one of us. Very simple objectives I have, 3 objectives. One is for you to know why it's important in investing in your personal happiness and well-being. Number 2, why it's important for your employers, your universities, your environment to invest in your happiness, to be a key player in that journey. And third objective is to keep you all awake and engaged. So don't make me fail. Jump in, happiness equation. So this is according to the work done by Mr. Muhammad Gaudat. He's a best-selling author, American, Egyptian, possibly Saudi right now, has published multiple best-selling books. From one of his work, and I'll tell you a sad story actually, he started his journey towards studying happiness after a sad event. He lost his son secondary to a medical error. Simple medical error in a simple operation. He decided to leave his success and his work and his path that was set and transition into studying happiness. His mission was to make 1 billion happy, and he's on the path to that. I took one of his equations and adapted some insights of my own to that equation. Hopefully this will be helpful as a primer. Happiness, according to him, is perceived events minus expectations, between brackets, plus gratitude. Simple equation. So, question to you, if you wanted to increase happiness, what can you do? What is one thing you can do based on this equation that will increase your happiness? Anybody answer? You need to help. Yes. No, absolutely not. No, thank you. Good. It's a planted answer. Don't lower your expectations. Manage your expectations, okay? And that's my interpretation of it. We all have expectations of ourselves, of others. Just manage those expectations, okay? So, and by managing them, try not to lower them that much, but have them be more realistic. Second thing you can do is, and that's you have control over. And the most important message for me for today is gratitude. Do you have a word for gratitude here? Alhamd, shukr, al-imtinan? Okay, we are on autopilot. We always find, and I found this true again across all 3 sky religions, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and other religions. They all share in advocating for gratitude in one way or the other. And they emphasize the importance. The evidence and science supports this. We say it, we express gratitude. I urge every single one in this room to practice gratitude. Make it more purposeful for a higher return on investment. So think, I am grateful for being here today. I am grateful for being able to talk, for being able to walk. I am grateful for being ill. I am grateful for recovering from my illness. There's 1,000,001 things on a daily basis for you to be grateful for. Show gratitude. Write it down. 3 things you're grateful for every single morning. Check how you feel after 21 days. It will make a difference. Okay. For the sake of time, again, happiness, these are quick takeaway messages. Happiness is not something that just happens to you. There is an active component to it. Happiness is not a destination. We don't get to happiness and stay there. It's a journey, right? And finally, we talked about the first equation, the importance of gratitude and happiness, managing expectations. And the third part that I didn't mention is the life circumstances or perceived events. Things happen to us, good and bad, right? But it's how we perceive those things that has a greater impact on our happiness. Let's jump to another equation. This is the second equation, and I'll stop there with the equations. Happiness, according to this, is S plus C plus V, where S stands for genetic happiness preset point, C is life circumstances, and V is voluntary actions. A quiz for you. What percentage of your happiness is related to genetics? And you can cheat if you want. Anybody share? Percentage of happiness tied to genetics at preset point. The number is over the letter. 50%. Excellent. That is absolutely correct. Okay, what about life circumstances? 10%. Excellent. Very well informed. What about voluntary actions? You guys are rock stars. My job is done. Thank you. The reason those numbers are there is specifically for a purpose. I'm going to ask you now the same question, but be honest in your response without seeing those numbers. How much of your happiness would you attribute to your genetics? 50%? No. Be honest, you're going to be 10% or none. You might say that, right? How much of your happiness is dictated by life circumstances? I want to hear that. 60, 70%, right? And finally, voluntary actions is whatever is remaining. You might say 20, 30%. The message to you here, science tells us we should not be giving life circumstances more value than what science is telling us. Why are we allowing life circumstances to dictate our happiness? Okay. And it also tells you if you're unhappy, blame your parents. No, don't do that. What does a genetic preset point mean? It means, imagine this as a thermostat of a room. You have a number that's there, 25, 26, 18, 16. Things happen to get you to that preset point. Good news is we can change that preset point by many different things, whether it's environmental, medical, surgical. We're still discovering that. But it is important to know that your happiness is not dictated for life by genetics, but it is influenced by genetics. Life circumstances, again, we know good things and bad things happen. And I'm not going to belabor that. Dr. Kinji gave you multiple examples of what you can do and how you can deal with it. But the message from me to you is don't allow it to dictate your happiness. Voluntary actions, and that's what I'm going to focus about for this presentation. Now, before we go, there's some of you who say, Dr. we know this. You didn't give us anything new. Most of what I say here, you already know. I'm just going to package it in a way that's hopefully going to be more impactful. First, I'm going to tell you, for those of you who say this is a fluffy topic, we don't care about it, there is a link between happiness and productivity. There's a link between happiness and engagement. So from an employer perspective, they say, well, I don't care about your fluffy topic, Dr. Tayyar. I don't care about the happiness or well-being of our employees or our students. Well, you should care if you care about the bottom line, which is the dollar sign. According to a Gallup report back in 2013, this engagement costs the U.S. $450 to $550 billion. The global economy, $7.8 trillion. So there is a dollar value to this engagement. And it is tied to happiness and well-being. This slide, again, I'm just going to take it as facts. Happiness is related, so happier employees tend to outperform their competitors by 20%, according to some studies. There are 50% fewer workplace accidents in happier employees. So if you're happy, you're likely to be safer than others. And again, I'm taking some liberty in the interpretation because I want to drive this message in. 41% fewer quality defects, so your happiness affects the quality of your work, your output, whatever that work may be. Reduce overall healthcare cost, and for HR people, reduce absenteeism and presenteeism, which also we care about. Happy people are 10 times less likely to take sick leaves or take 10 times less sick leave than unhappy people. So if you are unhappy and you're going to school or to work, you have a bad dream about being sick, you call in sick. Sorry, I'm not coming in. I had a flu in my dream. Because you're unhappy going to work. But if you were happy and engaged, you'd probably be trying to show up at work. Oh, sorry. I'm not going to, again, this is things that you already know. We, in this room, and I'm going to consider myself young. Okay, that was harsh. For you, young people, and for me, as an elderly person, we share one thing. We all care about having some kind of meaning, right? And adding value to the society in one way or the other. One mechanism is through work. We make choices about where we work or who our employer is based on some factors. One of those factors is the financial compensation. It has become less and less important at this time. People, the younger generation, i.e. you guys, are looking for work-life balance. How is this job going to contribute to my work-life balance? And a further concept is work-life integration, because now you don't just balance, it's like integrated. So how does your work and life integrate? Is it a good integration, a healthy integration, or a poor integration, negative integration? You can get happy for the employers and for people in university. How can you simply invest in the happiness of your people, whether it's faculty or students? Recognition. Recognize your people in many ways and forms. Recognition can be verbal, financial, through certificates, awards, vacation time. Be innovative in how you recognize people. Recognizing the workload that a person has is a form of recognition. I recognize my colleague has a lot of work, so I offer help. I've noticed you have a lot of work. I'm recognizing your work. Can I help you? That also has a positive impact. All right, so we've talked about why happiness is important from a work perspective. Why is it important for your overall health and well-being as an individual? First, by show of hands, do you believe it's important for your success, your overall health and well-being, to be happy in one way or the other? By show of hands, if you believe that's true, put your hands up. Interesting. Either your hands are not way up. Please put them way up. And take a picture of this, please, because that's not going to happen. Again, everybody says, I need proof that I've actually presented here. All right. The message is, yes, it is important. Okay? It is actually quite critical to your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. How can we enable that? Multiple keys. What was a quiz for you? What was the title of my presentation? Unlocking happiness. It wasn't there for, sporadically. Unlocking happiness means happiness is within everybody. There is a lock. It could be a single lock or multiple locks. If there's a lock, there's a key, either one single skeleton key or multiple keys. I'm going to give you some keys to unlocking happiness. It's not an all-inclusive list, and I can't dive into them in depth because of limitations of time, but I want to introduce them to you. So, number one, if you forget my name, remember gratitude. Okay? Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Number two, and I'm not going to talk about it more because we've already talked about it. Number two, optimism. Some people are optimistic, others are pessimistic. We can be optimistic at times and pessimistic at other times. I urge you to be on the side of optimism. Okay, because that's better for your overall health and well-being. Be optimistic. Number three, resilience. I'm trembling with stress and fear because I just heard the professor's research and interest is resilience. How am I going to talk about resilience in front of this professor? So I'm going to keep it very simple and allow me for this oversimplicity. I'm going to define resilience for you here for the purpose of this lecture as the following. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. All right. Imagine I'm holding an object in my hand. I drop it, hits the floor, stays on the floor. No resilience. Bounces back a little bit, some resilience. Bounces back to the level I dropped, good resilience. Ideally, as my colleague said, we want it to bounce back higher, right? You get a setback in life, you fail, you don't attain something, that's your setback, that's your drop. So bounce back to a better place. Is that message clear? It's very important for all of us in this room. We're used to trying success or attaining high grades, getting your A's and being the top of your class. But in life, if you believe you have not failed, I urge you to fail fast and learn from it and move on. Does anybody in this room believe they've never failed? Some people, interesting. Okay, if I'm going to disprove you, if you believe that you've never failed or you haven't experienced failure, try to look back at your life at the first time you tried to walk? You probably have fallen, right? That's a failure of trying to walk. You tried to tie your shoes, you failed to do that. That's another failure. So we have micro failures and we have macro failures. It's how we perceive those failures, it's how we bounce back from them that impacts our overall health and well-being. So don't be afraid to fail. Next, mindfulness. What does mindfulness mean? In its simplest form, mindfulness is being present in the moment. You see a picture of a person doing yoga. That's one way or one tool of mindfulness. There's many tools: prayer, connecting, disconnecting, maybe having a walk with a focus on a certain aspect of your life. Find the way and the tool that works best for you and use it. It doesn't have to be one tool, it can be multiple tools. Think about this image. You're walking in a forest, you feel the breeze, you feel the sun, you're walking barefoot, walking on grass, stones, you hit a thorn. Continue the walk. You smell the roses, you're hearing different sounds and chirps of birds and different animals. That's the bubble while you're walking through the forest. Now let's replace that by walking the same walk in the forest, but you're thinking about, my colleague said this, professor said that, I'm unhappy, I have to pay the bill, I have an issue with my sibling or my significant other. You're not benefiting from the walk in the forest. Empathy and compassion. All of us, in one way or the other, are selfish. We want to preserve ourselves. If I had the last bottle of water on the planet today, what will happen in this room? I'll be attacked, okay? You will come for me because this is the last bottle of water. But if I'm smart about it, maybe I can prolong my life and your lives by figuring out and working collaboratively. Understanding that emotion you might have, being empathetic, not sympathetic, empathetic. So acknowledging the emotion and dealing with it appropriately. So showing empathy towards others is tied to your emotional and physical well-being. Emotional intelligence. You've heard about emotional intelligence? Okay. In brief, the message is the higher your emotional intelligence, the more likely you're able to be, it's tied to your wellness or your well-being. So you're more likely to be happy, the higher emotional intelligence, you're more likely to be successful with higher emotional intelligence. Good news is you can measure your emotional intelligence and you can enhance your emotional intelligence. Read up about emotional intelligence, look it up in detail, see the tools to enhance it and work on it. It has a high return on that investment in time. Finally, don't forget we are caregivers, whether at work as professionals, healthcare workers, or if you're not a healthcare worker, you care for other people, you care for work, you care for your family, you always are giving. Remember to take the time and give back to yourself. Recharge. You don't want to get to a stage of burnout. How do we do that? How do we recharge? Find what works best for you. Okay. Now is the important part. Remember this. Family and friends, the social network, major key for your happiness and well-being. So if you have a good, positive family and friends network, you have a more likely to be overall happier, healthier, and you're physically, mentally, and emotionally better off. If you don't, you can't change your family, right? But you can mitigate that risk, minimize those negative interactions, okay, to avoid that negative impact. For your friends, you do have a choice in selecting them. Find a supportive network. Be part of somebody's supportive network. Support each other. Okay. Next, the basics. Diet, exercise, and sleep. I'm going to give you one line on each. Diet, based on what I've read, the best advice I can give you is the following. Intermittent fasting, break that intermittent fasting with a Mediterranean diet of controlled portions. That's probably the best advice I can give you from a dietary perspective. There's a link between what you eat and in your mood. We're not going to get into that in detail. So take the final message. Intermittent fasting, breaking it with Mediterranean diet of controlled portions. Sleep. I cannot overemphasize the importance of sleep. If I was given the option of writing one prescription to better the health, physically, mentally, and emotionally, of all people on the planet, sleep. Good, healthy sleep. That would be my go-to prescription. Sleep is a debt collector. You are always engaged, you're always connected. We live in a world that does not follow our circadian rhythm, our internal clock. We're always on, there's always lights, there's always something happening. You have shift work. Remember to protect your sleep. Because with poor sleep, you get poor health overall. What is good quality sleep? 7 to 8 hours, ideally at night. Read about the topic of sleep hygiene. If you're having struggles with sleep, talk to a professional because there's multiple medical issues that can cause that problem, and they're easily reversible, such as obstructive sleep apnea, severe iron deficiency anemia, restless leg syndrome. These are all things you can read about, again, because I know that this room is of varying levels of education in medicine right now. So we talked about sleep, we talked about diet. What about physical activity? I want you not to be an Olympian overnight. I just want you to go from 0 to 1. I.e., if you're sitting all the time, start standing some of the time. If you're standing some of the time, start walking. But most importantly, do it regularly. Regular physical activity. It actually releases endorphins, releases one of the happiness hormones at least. Better for your overall health and well-being. How many of you have joined a gym, paid certain amounts? We're coming towards the end of the year, December. Let's join a gym, get healthy, you buy the best equipment, you start taking pictures and videos and playing Rocky music in the background. Then what happens? You go day 1, day 2, day 3, and then you stopped going, right? And it's on repeat. So small, consistent effort gets you results. If you go from 0 to 100, you'll probably break. So we talked about sleep, diet, and exercise. We talked about family and friends. We talked about gratitude as well as a pillar of happiness. Now, small little details. Going into the outside environment is good for your overall health and well-being. So staying in the concrete jungle, staying in closed offices or closed rooms all the time, majority of your life, is unhealthy. Find the time, carve out the time to step out and genuinely smell the roses. Remember this because it's going to come in another slide. Smell the roses. All right. They studied women with rheumatoid arthritis. It's an autoimmune disease with joints get inflamed, they get painful. They divided these women with that disease into 2 groups. Group that has an intervention, the other group that does not have the intervention. Happiness intervention, and the other without. They found that the group that has the happiness intervention required less pain medications and had overall better outcomes. That's just one of many studies. There is a link between happiness and your chronic medical conditions. Okay? And it's a favorable link. So if you're happy, your perception of disease, how your disease is controlled, your pain levels are all affected. So that's why it's really important for you to invest in your happiness. All right. Those are the main things that I wanted to talk about here. Now, we're almost towards the end of the presentation. I'm not going to bore you beyond this. But Dr. Kenji talked about certain hormones and happiness. So there is chemistry in this. We can't ignore it. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. When I say this, usually when I give this presentation to an audience of men and women, the men in the room say, yes, thank God it's a woman problem. Because they just tie hormones to women. That's absolutely incorrect. It's a universal, global, bi-gender problem. You have hormones to different levels in different genders, and those hormones will affect you in different manners. Affect your mood, affect you physically and physiologically, because they control a lot of things. That's the message regarding hormones. We talked about genetics. There's a preset point. It can be changed. We know that. Don't blame your parents. That's the message. I said smell the roses. I found a very interesting study just to help me actually put this on a slide. It's a small study. They found that people who smelled roses are 3 times more likely to be happy than those non-exposed to floral scents. So what am I saying? Go buy roses if you can afford it every day. If you can't, go out to the environment and smell the roses. You have a beautiful country, beautiful environment, beautiful people. Enjoy it. Step outside, okay? And if that fails, go to a flower shop, take a whiff of free flowers, free happiness. Deciding to be happy is your first step towards happiness. Make that decision, right? I found a study that also serves this purpose. Pets and happiness. If you have a pet and you look after a pet, it increases your happiness. The actual action of petting increases or releases oxytocin, one of the hormones of happiness. So when I go outside back in Saudi and I pet my camel, oxytocin is released and I feel happier. I'll show you pictures of my camel later. Jobs and happiness, or your career and happiness, there's a bidirectional relationship. Your job and your career will affect your happiness, and your happiness will affect your job. All right? If you're dragging yourself to work miserable, tired, why am I here? I don't want to see these people. Every single day of your life, change your job. Okay? It's going to affect you negatively. And vice versa. Again, if you come to a positive work environment, I can't wait to see my colleague, Kenji, Dr. Hindi, Dr. Mirna. I want to see them. I want to work with them. Let's solve the world's problem. Dr. Nani and Dr. Yasmin, if she's here, perfect. Thank you so much again for introducing us to Jakarta cuisine. It makes me look forward to coming and visiting Jakarta again, seeing your warm hospitality and amazing food. Money. This is controversial. If I give you money, can I help in your happiness? Okay. Oh, God. Here we go. Sorry. I'll throw it. Okay. Yeah. It has a black card in it, by the way, so it's good. So yes, there is a tie between money and happiness. That it goes hand in hand to a certain extent. Then there's a separation. You get more money, you make more financially, but you don't have the similar return on happiness. In North American studies, they found that number to be around 70 to 80,000 per year, dollars, I'm speaking. In different regions of the world, it's probably different, right? The message here is don't tie your happiness solely to money. Yes, it's important, but it's not the most important factor, and it's not the only factor there. Perfect. So what else? This is the really, really, really most controversial point when I present. So how many of you in this room believe that marriage is appropriately placed on this slide as a positive contributor to marriage? If you believe marriage is a positive contributor to marriage, to health, happiness, and well-being, put your hand up. I want to see it. I want to visually see it. I have poor vision. I can't really see hands up. All right, I'm in trouble now. As always, exit stage left. You're going to say Dr. Tayyar came in from Saudi and said, don't get married. No, I did not say that. And anybody who says that, I will come after you. The message is a healthy, happy marriage or partnership is a positive contributor to your overall health and well-being, right? A negative marriage or relationship is a negative contributor to your health and well-being. So if you're miserable in your relation, and I stress that, consider options, okay? Oh my God, I'm in trouble, I know this. Please don't share the recording, okay? They'll hunt me down back home and here. All right, but you get the message, right? It's really about meaningful relationship, positive relationship, and you play a part in it. You're not just there. You're an active contributor to that relationship. Don't just blame your partner. Oh, it's terrible because they're not aligned with my thinking. Yes. Oh, you great one. Thank you. Your thinking is subpar, okay? It's fine. We all have differences. It's trying to bridge those differences, trying to create a healthy, happy relationship that contributes to your overall health and well-being. Dr. Kenji mentioned the Harvard study about longevity and happiness. They found, again, and I'll reiterate this for the sake of testing your memory and reinforcing it, social connections, positive social connections is the single most important factor in that, looking at this retrospectively. It's not causal, right? There's a correlation, not causation so far, but it is an important indicator for us to remember. This is like basically saying everything that I said that has some evidence behind it, that slide. This is almost the last slide. One more slide after this, I promise. Happiness is infectious. This is the only time you're going to hear a doctor tell you, go get infected. Find happy people, get into proximity, get them into your circle, hope to get infected with the bug of happiness, right? So again, you can say Dr. Al-Tayyar told us to go find happy people. That's you can say, omit everything else. Finally, if everything I said today fails, everything fails. Good news is, studies have found that pretending to be happy will contribute towards your happiness and well-being. So pretend to be happy, act like you're happy, smile, force yourself to laugh. That will infuse some happiness. We've talked a lot about the word happy, but I don't want to ignore other things. It is important for our survival to acknowledge and appreciate the other emotions, anger, sadness, fear. If I was fearless, I'd be walking off a building if I was on the rooftop, or crossing some of the streets that I am so fearful of while I'm in the car with some of my colleagues driving. I did not specify the gender again. But you get the message, right? We need other things. We need to feel appropriate anger, appropriate sadness, appropriate fear, anxiety, happiness, sadness. They're all important. But what's important is to recognize the need for balance of those emotions. Any excess of, if I'm constantly happy every single day, laughing my head off, I have to see a doctor, right? It could be an indication of a severe mental health issue. Psychosis, bipolar, like there's multiple things you can think about. Substance abuse, if you're constantly happy. If you're extremely sad, depression and other diagnosis comes into play. Extreme fear, you go into generalized anxiety disorder with panic attacks, right? So if you have a doubt, ask a professional. Don't self-diagnose. Don't diagnose others based on what you see. There's a lot of depth to that. I'm going to conclude with this slide. That's not me. Just to clarify. Although that would be nice, because this is a great friend of mine. His name is Ghayyan Al-Hajri. I highly advise you to try to look him up on Google or something. Get more information about him. He is a retired Saudi Aramco employee. He used to actually work with my father at one stage, so that's one other path of connection. I crossed paths with him incidentally several times. We became very close friends. He's above the age of 70, and I shouldn't have said that, but he is. And he allowed me to use this picture for a purpose, is to summarize everything I said, or a lot of what I said. Look at him, sitting out in the open environment, in the beloved deserts of Saudi Arabia, with a nice warm fire in front of him, having his Saudi coffee, with the family and friends support, as evidenced by the footwear beside him, and somebody that's actually physically taking that picture. You can see in the background his pet camels. Okay, so remember having the pets and looking after the pets. And you can look at his physique. He's maintaining his weight, nice and lean, because he used to walk, and he continues to walk till this day, 5 to 10 kilometers in the desert. I am not exaggerating, I'm not using this. He actually walks 5 to 10. He was born on a sand dune. His mother gave birth on a sand dune, picked him up, and walked back to the tent. I'm like, I would love to see this today. This picture summarizes a lot of what I said. He's sitting there, imagine that bubble next to his head. Imagine his thoughts. Do you think he's thinking about, I got a B instead of an A, or I got an 89 instead of a 90 on Saturday 1985? No. Is he thinking about, the bills to pay, or a quarrel he had 50 years ago or 30 years ago? Most likely no. He's sitting there, he's being in the moment, he's being mindful, right? He's thinking about all the blessings in his life. He's so grateful. He shows gratitude. If I pick up the phone right now, I don't know what time it is in Saudi, and I start talking to him and I'll translate, he'll immediately start, "Hi, Dr. Tayyar, Alhamdulillah you called me." He's grateful for me calling him. And it's literally that simple act of just genuinely tying that gratitude to something that has a high return on investment. So with that, I'm going to conclude, and I wish you all happiness, health, and well-being. Thank you so much for this lovely opportunity presenting here.
Thank you, Dr. Tayyar.
Thank you.
You can sit here.
Oh my God, I'm worried. I'll sit here because Kenji.
Okay, Dr. Kenji, I will invite you. We will move to the discussion session, Doc.
Yeah, please. Oh yes, can we play the video? I forgot. So many things I'm forgetting. Tells you how old I am. By the way, you guys are like lovely. Can we play it with voice? Yeah. Welcome everybody to my humble house. As you can see, because of the weather, sometimes we have to park our cars inside. So just a quick selection of some of my old cars for now. And I'm hoping to get some of them restored, but I have to prioritize. The planes are on the second floor, and we only travel in the best of class. So hope you guys come and visit. See you in Saudi Arabia. By the way, quick disclaimer, it's really not my house. It's the house of our help, and those are not all my cars. No, I'm kidding. It's a lovely place. I highly advise. I welcome you all to come and visit us in Saudi Arabia. We'd love to have you over. Every single one of you, consider yourself our guests, and thank you for the opportunity and the hospitality you've shown. I'm always amazed by how kind and nice you guys are. Our ushers, Faiz and Daniel, have been absolutely amazing. Please give them a hand of applause. I tried to go to the restroom, they found me, so been struggling since yesterday to try to get there. Excuse me on that. And again, everybody, all the professors by name, I don't want to mention everybody all by name because I'm going to forget names and I'm not going to do you a service. Hinde, I have to mention you by name. Please give her also a round of applause. She's done so much.
Brought us all here.
Yeah, she brought us all here, and she's actually, it's like herding cats. To have both of us on stage at the same time, in the same country, in the same city, that's an accomplishment, really. And again, people behind the scenes, my dear friend Mirna, she kind of made sure that I went through on the right plane, through immigration safely, so please hand of applause. Should I mention?
Enough, Doc.
No, one more. Professor Nani, Donna, and Professor Yasmin, Dr. Yasmin, personal thank you and appreciation for your abundance of kindness. They took us out for like a lovely meal. We already love Indonesia, now we fell in love, and we're going to add some pounds. So thank you so much. Shukran. All right, now the mic is yours.
Oke, Dok. Baik, adik-adik, jika ada pertanyaan boleh ada adik koas IKM, koas IKAKER. Ada pertanyaan nggak? Kalau nggak ada pertanyaan nanti saya yang nanya. Ayo, mau pilih mana? Yuk adik-adik, ada yang mau nanya nggak? They are too shy.
Oh, wait,
Maybe you can.
Can I translate in Arabic?
Yeah.
Okay. يا جماعة, come on, يلا.
So we do have one question. That's good, right there.
Ya, silakan.
Thank you, Doctor, for your lecture. It was very inspirational for me.
Semester
First of
berapa
all,
dia sebutin namanya? Semester berapa?
I'm Suandi from third year of preclinic medical student. And for my question, actually my question is related to previous lecture. Stress reliever are meant to make us happy and help release chemicals such as dopamine and serotonin and etc. However, stress reliever differ from person to person. For example, person A stress reliever is scrolling through social media, and which means it make them less productivity. But if we tell them to doing some workouts such as gym, they will make them more stressed. However, second person, person B, for example, doing workouts such as gym is stress reliever for them. So should we force person A to go to gym, or we suggest them to scroll through social media? Thank you.
Dr. KG first.
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe I'll start and have us Dr. To chime in as well. So my question is actually back to you. Critical thinking, right? How many percent of happiness or how many percent of stress do you think is genetics? 60%? 50%, right? There's an 80-20 rule if you look at some of the studies. No matter what we do, there's a bimodal distribution of 80%, 20%, almost anything we look at, right? Statistically speaking, it's almost like Fibonacci's number. You know, why is this number kind of related everywhere in the world? It depends on your genetics, right? Part of it I showed you how cortisol is released, and then you think about the physiologic response. It may change from person to person, but ultimately we're humans, right? We're human, Homo sapiens, and luckily I was sitting next to your physiology professor, and his physiology is the same whether you're here in Jakarta, from in New York City, Paris, London, Sydney, Johannesburg, right? It doesn't matter, right? That's why when people say that we all respond differently, I agree. There's a small component, 20%. 80% of what we do is similar. When I smile in every country I go to, do you think people think that's threatening or is that welcoming? Right? People they see that as welcoming, right? They see it as a hand gesture. When you come and kind of greet someone, you have a connection with someone, even though they're different languages, different barriers, we respond very similarly. This is why we talked about certain things that can make you happy or stress relief. People always ask, what's the secret answer? Because it changes for everybody. And that's why ultimately it is about who you are. But the one thing we do know, smiling is universal. Gratitude journaling has been shown as one of the most evidence-based responses to good stress and bad stress. Being grateful is very human as well. Even if you might live in the poverties of Mumbai, you know, kind of look at the study there, compared to living off the streets of New York City in a penthouse in Manhattan. Gratitude is similar in human nature in the way our hormones respond. So when I always tell people what's the one thing you could do besides sleep, because I agree, sleep is the best you can do, and smiling is something you could do, it's free, is just remembering why you're so thankful you're here every day. Whether it's the first thing you think about in the morning or the last thing you think at night, just having a journaling, and you got to track this. So on your phones, I don't know if most people have iPhones now, they actually introduced this for this reason. They asked me this 5 years ago, like, hey, Dr. Said, if there's one thing you could do on your app and digital technology, what would it be? And we all knew back then, because the gold standard, did actually a randomized controlled trial in this, is that those people who gratitude journaling and measure and write it out, and actually write on a phone or write out by hand every day, tend to do better long-term overall. So to me, it doesn't matter. But to consider your question a little bit more deeply, on a second level of that, this is why I ask what your personality type is. There's a psychological component beyond the biological component. Understanding your personality type and maybe having psychology be introduced earlier in your medical curriculum, I think is so important to understand our human psyche, because that is really culture dependent as well. Religion, faith, spirituality, emotions, all that psychologically has behaviors you can model and have therapeutic responses to as well. That's a whole another hour lecture I can do for you maybe next time I come back. Doctor?
Yeah, I just concur with what you said. And just to keep it very brief, there's many tools available to us, right? I'm not talking just about physical tools. Like many things we've mentioned here, pick the tool that best works for you. It doesnn't have to be a tool that works for X doesn't have to be the same tool that works for Y. It doesn't have to work in the same efficacy, right? So pick what best works for you. Time is up. All right. So we will, can we use like expat privileging and push the time a little bit? Like, no?
Yes, and then make the close statement or take home message for the all students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Take home message. All right. Maybe I'll give the mic to Kenji again.
This is why we tag team a lot, right?
Yes.
We presented this in Saudi, in Riyadh, right? And we presented it in Oman, and we did all over the world too, together. And I think the one take-home message I always remind people is, we know based on studies now right? Because people always think mental health is not a disease, it's not a condition that we see. In the US, we have the DSM model. I'm not sure if you use that in Indonesia. So the axis 1, 2, 3, right? We actually classify psychological diseases that we know as hormonal imbalances. Pharmacologically, right? Western medicine, we say here an SSRI, SNRI, here's a pharmacological response to your disease. You have high blood pressure, antihypertensive, anxiety, anti-anxiety. We talked about happiness, right? There's psychological components to it that we start treating. But I want us to think outside of just treatment, right? As physicians and future doctors in the room, we have a responsibility not only to our patients on a one-to-one basis. I talked about it, right? People don't remember what you tell them to do, but they'll remember how they feel after they leave that visit with you. Take that, magnify it a little bit more, use your brain, and start thinking, how can you help not only this person, the next person, right? In one day, the most I've ever seen doctors see in a very good manner is 50 patients. But if you multiply that over your lifetime, you have a responsibility to the population, right? This is why we teach populational health here in Indonesia and in the world, across the world, is that what's the one thing we can do to help people is remind them what they are as humans, what they can do to love each other. I know love is a really interesting word to use on stage, but I think ultimately that's what it is, because love means different things to different people. But if you just love one another, love your community, love your patients, love your population, I think that is sort of the underlying message of connection, of gratitude, of happiness, and then from the biological perspective, sleep, eat, and be well. Thank you.
That's why I let him summarize, do the hard part, the heavy lifting, right? And I'm going to complement that, and I'm going to add my take-home message to you is something we didn't really mention clear on, so I'm going to say it. Have a purpose, okay? Have a purpose in life. And I'm going to give you an example. When you're asked about your job, don't say, I'm an ophthalmologist, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm an architect. Go beyond that. And from my personal use, when I'm asked in different areas, so what do you do in different settings? I tell them I have the honor and privilege for looking after the people that look after the energy of the world. That's genuinely, it's something that hits home with me. Whatever day I'm having, I remember my greater purpose. Why am I doing this right now? Why am I here? I'm helping to people. I'm looking after people who are looking after the energy of the world. So purpose is important. Have purpose in life. If you don't have it clearly stated, think about it seriously right now. And number two, in Arabic, the best word to describe it is al-rida. Do you have an equivalent to al-rida?
What?
Anybody? Rida. So,
Ridho. Oh, Ridho.
Wow,
Yes,
it was just a
Ridho.
pronunciation
Yes.
issue there. Rido, right?
Ridho.
So, Rido is very, very important. Once you achieve that level, everything else that we talked about falls into place. So, purpose and Rida. All right? And I'm going to leave you with that. Thank you so, so much. You've been a lovely audience. We've fed off your energy. Sorry? Oh, surrender. Oh, surrendering. Yes, surrender. Basically, surrender that's an explanation of the Rida. It's even beyond that, I think. It's like really being at peace with whatever outcome or whatever challenge you are facing. Like genuinely believing in it's for a purpose, and you're going through this for a greater power. And again, for Muslims, it's Allah or God, Rabbana. That's why. As we've been given the warning that we will be shut off stage. I'm kidding. So thank you so much. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much.
Thank
Your
you.
absolute pleasure being here. Thank you. Shukran jazilan.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Ahmad
thank you.
Tayer, Dr. Kenji. Maybe we can take a picture with all students.
Yes, please. Can we take a selfie with you guys? All right. I pride myself on getting people into the picture. Come as close as possible to each other. I'll try. Hold on. Okay. Can you guys fit yourself in, please? Make it easier. You want to do the Trisaki sign? Triskati. All right. And the video, this video requires noise, a lot of noise, okay? So I want you to make noise on 3, all right? How do you say 1, 2, 3? Okay, 1, 2, 3 in. Okay.
Oke. 1, 2, 3. Trisakti. Yes! Yeay!
You're gonna have to fight for the mic.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih para speaker, adik-adik sekalian. Terima kasih. Mungkin sesi diskusinya amat singkat ya, karena kita ada kelas berikutnya. Mungkin jika ada pertanyaan bisa dititip ke tim panitia ya, nanti akan disampaikan kepada speaker. Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Dr. Hindi. Take this. Thank you very much for Dr. Hindi, Dr. Kenji, and Dr. Tayer. And next, we will go with the presentation of certificate, followed by a group photo session. We would like to invite Dr. Kenji Saito, Dr. Ahmed, and Dr. Hindiyati to stay up on stage. And we would like also to invite Dr. Jihan Samira and Dr. Nani Khairunisa to come forward to the stage to present the certificates to our distinguished speakers, and Dr. Donna also.
Oke, nggak apa-apa, habis foto udah. Habis ini udah aja. Maaf. Ya, silakan.
One second, I can't do that. Sorry.
Dear guests, we have now come to the end of today's program. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to all participants, speakers, and doctors who have joined and contributed to this meaningful event. I, Tubagus Fauzan Wahyu Fadila, humbly apologize for any mistakes in my words or conduct throughout the event. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and we look forward to seeing you all again at the next AMPM. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Adik-adik jangan meninggalkan tempat dulu, kita akan foto dari depan. Yuk, kamera.
Habis mau ikut dong.